Welcome to Daily Gossip. You will get daily Hollywood and sports updates here. Remember to subscribe for the latest videos. Today, we bring you a story that transcends sport and enters the realm of human drama, resilience, and soul-deep triumph as Rory McIlroy, the Northern Irish golfing icon, achieved a victory at the Scottish Open that feels less like a tournament win and more like a chapter from an ancient legend reborn under modern skies. Because for McIlroy, this win was not just about lifting a trophy, it was about lifting the dense, invisible weight that has pressed down upon his shoulders for years. A weight composed of self-doubt, public expectation, media scrutiny, professional rivalries, and the quiet, gnawing fear within that asks every aging athlete the same question: do I still have it? And as he stepped onto the final fairways of the Renaissance Club, with gray storm clouds swirling overhead and bitter winds slicing across the course like invisible blades, Rory's eyes burned with an intensity that seemed to pierce the very fabric of nature's fury. For here was a man determined to reclaim what was once second nature to him, winning, conquering, silencing the roaring crowd within his mind that sometimes threatened to drown out the calm he needed to sink each putt. And as he walked, each step heavy with the knowledge of his recent past, a past dotted with near misses, crushing defeats, haunting regrets. Moments when his swing betrayed him and his confidence dissolved like mist under sunlight, he carried the memories of his younger self within him. The curly-haired prodigy who had burst onto the world stage with such radiance, whose smile once lit up entire fairways, who charmed fans and journalists alike with his boyish charisma and fearless drives that cut through air like lightning bolts. And he wondered, as all champions do, whether he could ever resurrect that boy, merge him with the man he has become, older, wiser, more scarred, more cautious, and yet somehow stronger for all the wounds life and sport have inflicted upon him, because true greatness is never about unbroken victory. It is about shattered dreams reforged into unbreakable resolve. And today, the entire golfing world watched as McIlroy showed what that resolve looks like when embodied in flesh and bone and spirit, as each hole he completed was a silent prayer answered, each stroke a defiance of the universe's constant tests. And the Scottish Open became an arena not merely of competition, but of redemption. For the rain that lashed down and relentless sheets felt less like an obstacle and more like a baptism, washing away every whispered doubt in his heart. And when he stood over his final putt, that small white ball becoming the entire world in his vision, he did not think of trophies, he did not think of rankings. He thought only of what this moment meant to him as a man who has spent his life chasing perfection, battling personal demons that the public never sees, the silent anxieties at 3 a.m., the quiet despair of lonely hotel rooms after missed cuts, the agony of seeing his name slip down leaderboards week after week, and yet he still rose each dawn, pulled on his shoes, wrapped his fingers around his club, and stepped onto the course to try again, because that is who Rory McIlroy is at his core, a man who refuses to accept defeat as a final chapter. And as his putt rolled into the hole, disappearing like a dream fulfilled, he raised his fist into the rain-soaked skies, mouth open in a silent roar of victory, eyes brimming with tears that no one could distinguish from the cold rain streaming down his cheeks. And in that moment, time seemed to pause, as if even nature herself bent down to honor his triumph. Because this win was not merely about besting his rivals, it was about proving to himself that he is still worthy of the love and admiration his fans have poured upon him for years, worthy of the sacrifices his family has made, worthy of the little boy's dreams that still live inside the man. And as the crowd erupted in thunderous applause, their cheers crashing against the cliffs of East Lothian like ocean waves, McIlroy felt an ache in his chest that was equal parts relief and rebirth, because he knew that this win would echo far beyond Scotland, rippling outwards across the world to every fan who has followed his career since the early days, to every young golfer clutching a club in dawn's first light, to every person fighting battles no one sees, reminding them that if Rory can rise again after all he has endured, so can they. And the press conference that followed was filled with emotional vulnerability as he spoke, voice rough and trembling, about what this win meant for his soul. How it reminded him of who he is, not just as a golfer, but as a man, a husband, a son, a friend, a human being constantly striving to live up to his own impossible standards. And though journalists asked him about technicalities, his club choices, his swing adjustments, his win strategy, what mattered most were the pauses between his words, the raw honesty of a man who has walked through darkness and come out into the light again. And he thanked his team, his caddy, his trainers, his family, his fans, but above all he thanked himself in silent reverence for not giving up when giving up would have been so much easier. And as he left the press tent, trophy cradled in arms still aching from the day's battle, his walk carried a quiet majesty, not the swagger of youthful dominance, but the grace of a warrior who has bled on the battlefield and emerged with honor intact and somewhere deep. Within, he knew that this win would not silence all critics, because there will always be critics, but it would silence the only critic who truly matters, the voice within him that once whispered he was finished. And fans watching live or catching replays hours later felt their own spirits lift with him, because in Rory's journey they saw reflections of their own, their failures, their hidden fears, their unspoken dreams. And his victory became theirs too, and as the rain finally ceased, parting to reveal a sky streaked with the golden hues of late Scottish evening, it felt as if the world itself was applauding, and Rory McIlroy, standing alone for a moment beside the 18th green, breathed in the cold, clean air, feeling the smell of wet grass and ocean salt fill his lungs. And he closed his eyes to imprint the moment into memory forever, knowing that no matter what comes next today, he became whole again, not just as a golfer, but as a man reborn through struggle, through tears, through the purifying storm that tested his limits and revealed his true strength. And this is why we watch sports, why we follow athletes' lives with such devotion, because their battles are our battles, their victories are our victories. And today, Rory McIlroy reminded us that champions are not those who never fall, but those who rise again and again until the world has no choice but to stand and honor their courage.